Well, this is what happens when I keep breaking things. So we've been doing the fence, and we've been putting posts in the ground, metal posts, T-posts. It's been going great. But we have one problem with our whole fence building effort, and that is that the post driver itself is built for about, 8 3/4 inch wide material, which is great if you're putting, large wooden posts in the ground or something like that. But we're not. We're using 2 3/8 outside dimension steel pipe and T-posts. So holding those centered in the post driver and keeping them from flopping around is really quite difficult in a post driver as big as it is. And that is what this guy is for. You buy this from Shaver. It's called a T-post adapter. It does a great job of fitting into the carriage on the post driver and keeping whatever small stuff you want centered in the middle. So that's great. What isn't so great is the fact that after about 1,500 feet or so of fence, it does this. You can kind of see this weld here is broke, this weld is broke, this one isn't broke, but it's cracked, and the ones at the bottom are still holding. And most importantly, this is the second one of these that I've purchased. This is the first one, and it actually just completely disintegrated after about 1,500 feet of fence, and like I said, this one is on its way. So I bought 2 of them, and I've broken both of them so far, which leads me to say I don't really want to buy more of them. However, I don't really have a lot of choices. There aren't really other things out there that I can just go buy, which brings us to our project today, which is this guy. We're going to try to make a much more heavily reinforced version of this T-post adapter. So to do that, I've taken the old one, and here's the rods that were just like this one, but they were on this guy here, the cylinder from the middle, and then what I'm adding to it is, starting with 2 pieces of 8" by 8" 1/2" thick steel plate, and turning each of those pieces of steel plate into this. So what did we do to make this? This was a whole lot of fun. First of all, we take the piece of plate and we have to cut it into the shape of a triangle, which of course means cutting. Lots of cutting. Lots and lots and lots of cutting. And I should note that I definitely don't have the right saw for this. If you were going to do this, professionally, you'd be using a high-powered bandsaw or something like that, not my silly little abrasive chop saw. So I'm not doing it the right way. I'm doing it with what I have. So I didn't really feel like buying, $4,000 worth of really nice tools to make this happen. So we're trying to work with what we got here. So cut this to a triangle first. Once it's cut to a triangle, I have to put a 3" hole in the middle of it, which means a whole bunch of drilling with a hole saw. Lots of drilling with a hole saw, yes. And that took a great deal of time. But we did get our 3" hole in the middle. Once that's in, we need slots for these to fit into, because again, what we're trying to do is make this nice and strong. And to do that, we want to have slots that these rods are going to fit into so that they get welded in, so it isn't just purely the weld holding on to the side of the cylinder here. We want that to be quite a bit stronger of a joint. So to make that happen, what did we do? Well, we took a 1/2" drill, because these are 1/2" rods, and with a 1/2" drill, we drilled basically the bottom end of each of these slots into this piece of plate. So, drill a hole, drill a hole, drill a hole. And then, once those holes are all drilled, lots of drilling, then we take our angle grinder with a cutoff disc and we cut the slots down to the hole from each of those ends. So lots and lots of cutting. Lots and lots of grinding. It's a great deal of fun, it really is. So we do that, we make 1, we make 2. So now we've got 2 of those that are, we'll say they're identical. I won't pretend that all of my cuts are perfect, but they're good enough. This has to work. It does not have to be pretty. It's not going in a magazine. So then we have to take our rods. As you can see, looking at the old ones, these have been cut down. So we put them on, we measure, and mark them, cut them down with the cutoff disc on the angle grinder. And then grind the end down so that it fits nicely into those slots. Lots of grinding, lots of cutting. It was a great deal of fun. So, but what we now have is at least potential, assuming I can weld it correctly, a potential much more heavily reinforced version of this post adapter. So that's our next task then, is to get welding. It should be noted that I haven't really done any welding before in my life. So this is going to be fun. We're going to use a stick welder because this is, it's pretty thick stuff and it doesn't have to turn out all that pretty. It just has to hold. So we're going to see how I can do with a stick welder. So with that in mind, I have some extra pieces of metal from doing this, and we're going to use those to practice with because yeah, I'm not that confident at all in my ability to weld this. So let's go do some welding practice and then we'll get welding on this guy. And just like that, you get to see how messy my garage is. Don't tell my wife. Anyway, with that, we're going to talk about what we're going to try for welding here. So of course we have gloves, we have a chipping hammer, some magnets to try to hold stuff together, and of course, a welder. This is a Forney Easy Weld 180 ST. Stick welder will also work as a TIG welder as well. And we got a couple pieces of 1/2-inch plate that were left over from when we cut our triangles. We're going to see if we can't weld those two together. And to do that welding, we're going to be using 7014. This was actually recommended in the video by Forney when using that welder as a good beginner rod based on easy contact and stuff. So that's what I'm going to use because I am the definition of a beginner. So let's get going. We'll see how this goes. You may be laughing at my tabletop. Any experienced welders who have nice welding tables will, I'm sure, be laughing at this. This is a piece of countertop that I found because they were throwing it out at a house. Do I believe that it will completely take all the heat and everything from this thing? Yeah, probably not. But if it gets destroyed, I don't care. So whatever. We'll try it. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't, we'll, get something else. But in either case, let's get going. So what we have here is a whole bunch of really, really awful welds, and I'm sure that any welder who watches this is probably going to fall out of their seat or, hopefully not destroy their screen while they're looking at it. But in either case, in the end, we did finally get to this last one here, which, still not perfect or anything like that. And again, a welder who does this for a living will probably laugh at this, but that's much more decent, or at least approaching decent. So we'll keep practicing, see if we can get a little bit more consistent like that. Well, there we go. Best attempt. Yeah, they're okay. They're pretty consistent. Anybody who does this for a living, I'm certain, is, laughing hysterically at me, but that's okay. I don't have time to, spend, 3 months trying to, really get legitimately good at this, much as I would like to. It's actually quite a bit of fun. But I got to see if I can get this thing welded up, so that's the next thing. We're going to see if we can get the adapter on the table and see if we can get started welding it, see how it goes, see how much a mess I make. All right, well, here goes our first attempt. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to put this rod in place. You'll notice that I haven't welded either of the triangles to the cylinder. That's intentional because one of them rotates freely, one of them is kind of stuck on. And so the idea here is that whichever one happens to rotate freely, if it wants to rotate a little bit as the rods get put on, I don't care. That's fine. That's better than, having to bend or try to align the rods or something like that. So not going to worry about that. But what you'll notice here is I put this rod on. What I'm going to try to do, we'll see how well this works. I'm going to try to tack it in place, just, a little bit to make it stay. And then I'm going to try to tip it up and do the full weld when it's horizontal. 7014, yes, you can do vertical welds according to instructions, but honestly, I don't think I'm very good, or I don't think I'm anywhere near good enough to try to do a vertical weld with it. So I'm just going to try to tack it in place, and then once it's tacked in place and not moving, then I'm going to try to go through and basically fill it. And I know this is going to be a giant mess because I'm going to go through and try to essentially fill up these grooves if I can, just to keep it in there firmly. And, realistically, when the post driver is actually on this thing, the post driver is pushing this in. So as long as the welds are, holding relatively well, it should be okay. I keep telling myself that, so we will see. But first of all, tacking in place. Well, nobody's going to accuse me of being a great welder, but, that could be worse. The one down here, that could be worse. That one's really a giant glob, and, this one's also pretty much a, glob on the side. But again, they could be worse, but the important thing is they're holding. So what we're actually going to do next, we're going to tack the other two rods in place just to make sure that all the rods go into place properly. They've been measured to, but, just because they should doesn't mean they will. So I'll feel much better once they're all tacked in place, and then I can go around and finish everything off, kind of lay it on a little bit thicker and, fill in these gaps and stuff in here. So let's get tacking. All right, so we got all three rods tacked and everything seems to be good. So next thing to do, I'm gonna see if I can't do completely the rest of the welds on the rods. And then once I do the welds on the rods, I'll do the weld for the triangles to the cylinder. But anyway, we're gonna try to make this video go a little faster, and we're gonna try to see if we can't snap this into place. Ready? Well, and there we have it. All welded. Not a picture of perfection by any means, but they should hold. So, well, I'll probably throw a little bit of paint on it before I start using it, but we'll get it out there, start using it in the next couple days, and hey, the biggest question is going to be, do we break this one? I'm hoping very much that the answer to that is going to be no, but with all things, we will see. So anyway, thanks for watching my very first welding project ever. And hopefully it was very enjoyable. I actually look forward to doing welding. This is it's actually quite fun. The little Forney Easy Weld 180 over here really did a great job. I have nothing to complain about for it. It's great. So nice compact little stick welder there. So we'll see what we can do in the future. But thanks for watching, and come back for soon for an update on the whole fence project and such. So we'll see you soon. So a quick update on the post driver adapter. After putting in about 4,000 feet of fence posts, T-posts and braces and such with it, this is what it looks like. You can see the pieces of 1/2-inch rod here have actually just broken entirely. You'll notice that the welds that I did actually held, so I'm kind of excited about that. Apparently my welds were good. The actual piece of 1/2-inch rod, though, broke at the points where it bends. So that broke, but I was still able to use it because the triangle shape of that 1/2-inch plate at either end still, makes its center in the post driver anyway. Until eventually, this cap that was welded to there popped off. And I tried to weld it back together once, and it held for a little while after I did, but it eventually popped off again. So what really should happen, this thing, I mean, I didn't do it right. I didn't grind it down and stuff. I was just trying to do it fast to get done, but it should be ground down appropriately and, welded together properly on that pipe. But anyway, not bad. Generally speaking, I'm pretty pleased. My welds held, and if I was to do it again, I would probably take some pieces of either 1/2-inch or 3/8 bar and just put that vertically here so you wouldn't have, something with a bend to it to not take the hit. But anyway, not too terrible. I'm still pretty happy with it. So that's the update after getting some fence in with it, and we'll see you next time.